San Diego salutes its veterans with a big parade downtown.
Change politically will not happen overnight. What can happen overnight is that accident that you're going to end up in the emergency room. That can happen overnight.
The future of Obamacare may be at stake under a Trump presidency, but covered California officials are still encouraging people to apply.
It is something that happens in the military when you're young and you join, you become a band of brothers.
A band of brothers meet every week in San Diego, sharing stories and what they call bagels and bologna. They'll share some of those stories with us. And the San Diego Opera brings a soldier's story to the stage. We talk with the creators. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Veterans Day. I'm Amitha Sharma. San Diego saluted thousands of veterans with a big parade along the downtown waterfront. KPBS video journalist Nick McVicker was there.
3, 2, 1, go!
It's a culmination of service where the public honors what we did serving our country.
The state capitol served as the backdrop for a march to honor veterans in Sacramento. Boy and Girl Scout troops chanted their appreciation, and marching bands played their way to the state capitol. Some veterans were touched by the celebrations. They say they felt like outcasts after returning from serving abroad.
We weren't very popular, so I think the thing that touched me the most was when I got off the airport in Sacramento. Got a cab drive home, and the cab driver said, "You just coming back from Vietnam?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Thank you for serving, and don't worry about paying for the cab ride." So I thought that was great. It's the only homecoming I've ever got.
California is home to the largest population of veterans in the nation. President Obama marked Veterans Day by laying a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns at Arlington National Cemetery, thanking the nation's veterans for their service.
We owe you our thanks. We owe you our respect. And we owe you our freedom.
Obama also called for unity after the divisive election season. President-elect Donald Trump saluted veterans via social media today while holding transition meetings in New York. On Twitter, he said he'll soon be making some very important decisions on the people who will be running the government. He's also tweeted out some mixed messages about the anti-Trump protests around the country. Last night, he said they were incited by the media and very unfair. This morning, he said he loved the fact that small groups of protesters have passion for our country, our great country rather, and said we will all come together. A San Diego congressman's name is being floated as a possible choice for Trump's cabinet. Duncan Hunter is on a list of potential secretaries of defense published online by Politico. Hunter was an early Trump endorser. His office has not responded to requests for comment. After days of anti-Trump protests across San Diego, a small group of Trump supporters rallied outside Camp Pendleton today. Organizers say the gathering was held to honor veterans. They say veterans were a high priority for Trump during his campaign, and they hope they remain a priority in his presidency. How does a divided country come back together after such a bitter campaign? Associated Press reporter Peter Banda went out to ask that question.
The election is over, but emotions still raw after one of the most bitterly contested presidential campaigns. Disappointment spilling out into the streets.
The protest right now is on the person who won, his rhetoric. How mean-spirited, bigoted, racist, and we're here to make sure that the rhetoric does not become a reality.
With Donald Trump's upset victory, even supporters like Ed Casey wonder what would have happened if things had gone the other way.
If Hillary had won, just like the other side is Trump won, I would be just as devastated. I mean, I'll be serious about it.
We are the same people we were yesterday.
A question on the minds of many Americans now, how to bring a divided country back together.
It's a moment when people feel that they've personally been attacked.
For some, it begins in church services and vigils.
Life does go on, and we can still gather, and, there's still hope.
I come from a family of political refugees from Cuba, and I'm very grateful to this country for having accepted us. And I'm terrified.
For others, it means turning anger and frustration into action.
Registration should start right now.
Across the country, marches
Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate!
and rallies protesting Trump's election. Casey is hopeful that once Trump starts to govern,
the divisiveness is going to kind of melt away.
But Clinton supporters say they will continue to make their voices heard.
We are going to talk to each other, and we're going to make democracy work for all of us.
President Obama and President-elect Trump may have begun the process by doing just that. Peter Banda, Associated Press, Denver.
The Mexican government is planning to meet with Donald Trump before he takes office. Trump has met before with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto. They have talked on the phone since Trump's victory, but Mexican officials say they did not discuss Trump's plans to build a wall along the border. Immigration and NAFTA are expected to be on the agenda when the two men meet again, possibly in the next few weeks. Trump launched his campaign with a pledge to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico to stop illegal immigration. That pledge is part of his plan for his first 100 days in office. He has also pledged to stop federal funding for sanctuary cities, which shield residents from immigration authorities.
I think we should expect some very serious, impactful, and very devastating actions from President Trump on immigrant communities. And I think California's leaders will do more to ensure that they can establish due process for immigrants that may be at risk of deportation.
California has several sanctuary cities, including Los Angeles and San Francisco. President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to repeal the Affordable Care Act once he takes office. Statewide, more than 1 million residents signed up for Covered California last year, and the exchange is now launching its fourth open enrollment period. KPBS reporter Kenny Goldberg sat down with Peter Lee, the executive director of Covered California, to talk about the future of health care under a Trump presidency.
So, Peter Lee, there's a lot of fear that with the Republican takeover, the White House and in Congress, that the Affordable Care Act will be repealed. What's your view on that whole thing?
We need to take a deep breath. Is it the election was 3 days ago? We're going to have President-elect taking office in January. Change is going to take time. And what I really want to make sure we get the word out is that in the here and now, the law's in place, and we have San Diego area, more than 100,000 San Diegans that have coverage through Covered California. They should be renewing their coverage. We have tens of thousands eligible for coverage. They should be signing up and getting the benefits of having health insurance in place, financial help in 2017.
What about the people that are wondering, hey, why should they sign up if it's just going to be repealed anyway?
Well, I mean, look, the choice isn't repeal or not repeal. The choice for someone living here in San Diego is going without insurance or not. Going without insurance means you're rolling the dice that you could show up in the hospital next week and walk out with a $500,000 debt. Going without insurance means you're not getting preventive care you should get. Means you're someone with chronic illness not getting the care you need. So this isn't a policy issue. It's people's lives. And so we're out there, we're starting a tour across the state here in San Diego to make sure that people know that politics will happen in Washington. We look forward to being part of those discussions because in many ways, California has lessons for the rest of the nation. But change politically will not happen overnight. What can happen overnight is that accident that you're going to end up in the emergency room. That can happen overnight, and that's why we want to make sure that people sign up for health care.
What kind of lessons could California teach the rest of the country?
There's a number of lessons. First, we have a very competitive environment. So here in San Diego, 6 health plans. You read the national stories about states that have only one health insurance plan. That's not our reality, which means consumers are in the driver's seat. That's one. Number 2, we've set up our benefit design. So for all the talk about high deductible plans, you can't get access to your health care, through Covered California, virtually all the benefit designs say that deductible, which can be big, can be over a $2,000 deductible, but it doesn't apply when you go see your doctor for outpatient care, whether it's a specialist, primary care, emergency room, the deductible doesn't apply. So we have benefit designs that don't put the deductible in between you and your doctor. Third, we're reaching out from the ground up. We have storefronts to help people enroll throughout every community in California. We've actually put politics behind us from day one in California and said, let's make this work for Californians. Those are good lessons for the entire nation.
Is that to say, Peter, that you haven't prepared any contingency plans if, in fact, Obamacare gets repealed or gets curtailed?
Yeah. Look, we've been doing planning for over a year, saying there might be a new administration. So 6 months ago, we commissioned a report on what are the implications of changes of policy. But there's a dozen changes, and we don't know what they're going to be. The subsidies could be reduced. The subsidies could be changed. The penalty could be changed. And until you look at what the combinations are, it's not real.
That was Covered California's Executive Director Peter Lee talking with KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg. Lee also said any changes to Obamacare will take time. San Diego County has 30 days to certify the local results of the general election. KPBS editor Tom Fudge has the latest from the County Registrar of Voters.
Ballots are still being counted from Tuesday's election at the county registrar's office. In fact, there's still a long way to go.
Over 500,000 votes still left to be considered before we certify the election.
Michael Vu is the San Diego County Registrar of Voters.
Voters should not think that election night is the final end-all be-all, but there is a series of number of days after Election Day for us to consider many more ballots that needs to be added into the count.
Vu says the large number of local races and propositions forced the county to use a 2-card ballot. That created virtually twice the work needed to inspect and tally them. That's why there are some local races that are still too close to call. Tom Fudge, KPBS News.
There's a lot to say and analyze about the astonishing 2016 election. Join us as we figure out how we got here tonight at 8:30 on the Roundtable.
A new report says San Diego State is the second best California college for veterans. That ranking comes from the Military Times. The paper also says SDSU is 25th in the nation. The rankings are based on services for veterans and their success rates. The largest annual gathering of neuroscientists is happening now in San Diego. KPBS science reporter David Wagner has details.
The annual meeting of the Society for Neuroscience is expected to draw about 30,000 attendants to the San Diego Convention Center. Researchers will give talks and presentations on the latest research on a wide range of topics, including neurodegenerative diseases, brain development, and the state of global mental health. Scripps Research Institute neuroscientist Hollis Klein is president for the Society for Neuroscience.
There will also be opportunities for young scientists and scientists of all points in their career to present their latest data and hear feedback from their colleagues and exchange ideas about basically the current status of brain science.
The 5-day meeting wraps up on Wednesday. David Wagner, KPBS News.
A faulty smoke detector sent passengers scrambling from Terminal 1 at the San Diego airport this morning. There was no fire. Passengers were allowed back in after 15 minutes. This was a great day for water play. Video journalist Nick McVicker got this video down at Waterfront Park today. Shanae Shocker gives us a look at our forecast for next week.
Out in Southern California, continuing to see some very dry weather. However, up to our north, another low pressure system bringing a cold front onshore. That's where you're seeing this cloud cover out towards San Francisco and that green that's going towards the northwest. We won't be seeing any of that wet weather here tonight, or really any of those clouds. We'll have a moonlit sky. Great viewing conditions for the stars this evening, as well as temperatures sitting in the lower 60s. Very comfortable conditions across the board, from the coast to the mountains and inland towards the deserts. Ocean side, 47 degrees, Chula Vista at 57. And we head towards alpine. Temperatures drop towards mountain areas at 49 degrees, 45 for Ramona. And as we climb back out into the deserts towards Borrego Springs and Becca, will be sitting in the 50s, mostly clear skies across the board. Now, as we head towards our Saturday weekend, dry and pleasant conditions will remain, with this area of high pressure slipping inland. That's taken away that offshore breeze that's brought it very hot weather. But as we head towards early next week, we'll continue to stay dry as well. All the rain staying off to our north into the northwest. Now, here's a look at how this is going to play out for your Saturday. Check this out. We'll have some clouds hanging across the sky, but temperatures will be in the upper 70s. Very nice weather for us. Overnight lows pretty comfortable as well. We head towards the end of your weekend into the beginning of your work week. Looking at temperatures to be sitting in the low 80s. That's going to continue into Tuesday as well. But as we head towards Wednesday, a big low pressure pushing on shore. That could be ushering in some showers around the area, as well as much cooler conditions with that cold front. 72 degrees, overnight lows, and the mid-40s. Now, as we head inland, we'll continue with the sunny and warmer weather through really the beginning of next week. Monday and Tuesday, both looking to be near the 90-degree mark. We'll keep the sunshine all weekend into next week. And then by Wednesday, we do have that cooler weather coming with that front sweeping through. So we'll be back down into the mid-70s. Now, in the mountains, we're looking to be in the low 60s for Saturday and Sunday. Clear weather, brilliant sunshine will stay with very comfortable conditions through your Monday and Tuesday. Overnight lows, however, do get down into the 30s for the beginning of your week next week. 37 degrees on Monday. Check out Tuesday, 64 and nice again. But come Wednesday, that cold front moves through. We're looking to be in the 50s for your highs. Out in the deserts, also seeing very similar trend. We'll start in the mid-80s for Saturday and Sunday. We're looking at a brilliant weekend out there. Overnight lows very comfortable as well, sitting in the upper 40s to lower 50s. As we head towards the middle of next week, we'll cool back down from the upper 80s into the mid-80s for your Wednesday. For KPBS, I'm Shanae Shocker.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next news hour. The first of two special reports on the Paris terror attacks 1 year later. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
San Diego is home to a number of retired military pilots. Some of them gather on Friday mornings to share why their service remains so important to them. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh sat in on a session.
Anybody got some stories? Anything trigger a memory?
Some of these pilots are in their 90s. Most of them have not flown a military airplane in decades, if they still fly at all.
I want to be a pilot when I grow up because it's fun and easy to do.
Hank Getz flew jets in the Air Force before becoming a commercial airline pilot as part of a 40-year flying career. Now in his 80s, he plays unofficial MC for this group of retired pilots.
99% of them vets. There's something that happens in the military when you're young and you join, you become a band of brothers. The ready room before a flight, all the flights that day. When you're flying with other people, you have to rely on them, even in the life and death situations. So you become close, and now that everybody in this group is retired and in their senior years, we still migrate back to that cohesive brotherhood and talking airplanes.
And his routine would be is he would take off from the 100 and do a dirty roll.
On this Friday, the discussion gravitates to the recent death of a legendary test pilot, Bob Hoover, a contemporary of Chuck Yeager. Hoover was 94 years old when he died in October.
I talked to my buddy, a very close buddy, and I said, how was it flying with Bob Hoover? And his eyes got this big. And he says, Vic, he says, I've done things on that airplane that I've never done before. He says, it was scary. And he never did tell me what Bob Hoover did.
Most of these veterans have lived long lives beyond the military. One member was wheeled in by family, but they still seem very much defined by these stories of the time that they spent as naval aviators and Air Force pilots.
Another one of our members is a POW. He spent over 6 years in Hanoi Hilton. And some of those guys come back and they won't talk about it. Other guys will, depending on what kind of experiences you had.
They picked up other veterans over time. Mike Catalino was a Navy diver.
There was my buddy, the Great White again. And I took the liberty to punch him in the eye. He didn't like that. He didn't like that at all.
And hitting them in the eye. You know what? Only guys like us would believe that, because some of the stuff we've done is so strange. I was 24, 25 years old. I'm sitting in a modern day F-105 going Mach 2 all by myself. You tell that to people who have had a 9-to-5 job, there's no way they even come close to relating.
The group is called Bagels and Bologna because it started in a coffee house that served bagels, and because the stories aren't strictly fact-checked. They've outgrown a couple of locations. They can get more than 50 people at a single meeting. Getz says naval aviators try to end their careers in San Diego just so they can retire here. He's found new members just walking down the aisle at Costco.
They make more money than they can spend.
Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
San Diego Opera launches its new Shyly Detour series tonight with soldier songs. Each performance includes an hour-long opera followed by a 30-minute panel discussion. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando lets the key people responsible for this production describe what went into creating a new American opera.
I'm David T. Little. I'm the composer of Soldier Songs, and we're at the sound check just before the dress rehearsal here at the Balboa Theater in San Diego. Soldier Songs explores the life of a soldier from the age of 6 to the age of 66. In each song, exploring different experiences that were told to me by veterans that I interviewed.
I never talk about this with anybody.
The voices are heard in the piece. The interviews are used in the electronics, so you do hear the voices of my uncles and my friends telling their stories.
You're soldiers first, and that sort of is supposed to wipe out being a human.
And then those stories were also put into poetic lyrics.
I want to be just like my toy soldiers.
Each of the songs explores a different perspective along this experience. So the first song is a young boy playing with G.I. Joe figures. There's a song later called Steel Rain, which is taken from an email that was sent to me by my friend Justin Bennett, where he discusses the feeling of running from incoming ordnance.
In the military, we call incoming ordnance Steel Rain.
Yeah, the idea behind it is to create the world of a soldier, psychologically and also physically, with multimedia and projections, so that we use almost like a black canvas set that has different surfaces that allows us to project on them and also physically move around them. And it's very effective because in the Army, a part of the experience is to overcome obstacles, especially in training. And there's an element in the show of both that and the toy blocks, because before the soldier goes to war, he's portrayed as a little kid, and the world of that little kid is comprised of those toy blocks that then become obstacles for the soldier.
Soldier Songs is a new kind of opera, which is really asking the question, what can opera be?
I think first that opera can be expressed in a lot of ways. That opera can break some of the preconceived barriers to opera for some audience members, maybe that haven't attended, and think, oh, this is a different kind of experience than I imagined, that it's dramatically compelling and engaging. But also that opera can be very immediate, and that it can tell our stories, not stories of other people or other generations or other cultures, but really tell our stories and reach us in very profound ways.
I think it's difficult to have a piece about war and about the experience of being in war that doesn't have some political component. I think where it differs is that it's not partisan. It's not trying to prove a point about war. It's not trying to say one war is justified or unjustified, or one political party is right or wrong, or any of that. It really tries to focus on the experience of the individual within this broader apparatus, this broader experience. So you get very personal and very specific snapshots into the experience that my hope is will accumulate through the evening into a larger picture that will leave the audience something to think about as they leave. It tries to not give answers. It tries to ask questions.
Act One provides us with a tool to create catharsis. In Act Two, the actual panel, the actual discussion of soldiers and veterans about their experiences is the most profound and affecting result of that first part. And so resist the temptation to go after the show is over, because the second part is just as important.
My greatest hope is that we can honor soldiers, active military and veterans, by producing this piece, and again by those of us that don't serve, giving us a little bit of a glimpse into the impact of combat on the lives of those who, and by doing that, honoring the military.
I think what's wonderful about art, any kind of art, is that it can provoke people and make them think. And this opera is significant in that it really does that work. It allows the public a window into a life of a soldier, and that's really, really important.
San Diego Opera's Soldier Songs has performances tonight through Sunday. KPBS will present a live TV broadcast on Saturday night at 7 p.m. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening.